you're the only source of knowledge. So you're going to get bombarded with questions and requests from the new hire, and it's not their fault. So today's topic is all about setting up new hires for success and really what to do in the first 90 days. The first question you want to think about is what is your current onboarding process? What does that look like? Right? Do you have one? Do you not have one? And and if your onboarding process right now is 2 days or 3 days, after the 2 days of paperwork, we just throw them in the deep end. They just shadow me, and that's it, right? That's not good enough, right? There's so many components to onboarding that you're missing if you just throw that person in thinking that they will be effective and they'll get a lot done for you and not make mistakes. As a matter of fact, it'll be worse. Okay, so you don't want that. You don't want that to happen. Proper training, and think of it this way: individuals, they fall at the level of their training, right? We always fall at the level of our training, of our systems, processes, SOPs. So this session, we're going to cover the common pitfalls and highlighting our 90-day solution, and then detail proven structure. So some of the problems agency owners face, mainly because of the lack of onboarding, slow new hire ramp up time. Why does it take so long, right? Oh man, it takes. They still don't. They don't get it. There's so many things I have to constantly repeat over and over again. Those are red flags. Reduce overall team productivity. Like others are saying, yeah, we just hired this new person. How come they just don't know? And everyone's slowing down to retrain this individual. Inconsistent work quality. So sometimes it's great. Then there are days or weeks that are bad. Like what's going on? And then errors. We know there's a lot more errors with poor onboarding. It's really a direct correlation, and there's a lot of rework. High early employee turnovers. There are times where the new hire gets overwhelmed by the chaos, not understanding what's going on, and usually stress comes from not having control of oneself and knowing what to do next. And so it creates a lot of stress, which in turn um, makes the employee want to leave, right? Want to quit. And then owner remains a bottleneck for training and questions, right? So you as an agency owner, you're constantly answering every single thing. You're constantly on the call with the individual. And they're the only way, the method of learning really is to shadow you and understand what you're doing. A perfect example would be clients, right? Like, okay, well, rather than having an area looking through all the data of all the clients, where they're stored, where the structure is, how the process works, what are your offerings, your products, and your services, and how they relate to each of the clients. If it's not documented, it's not part of the onboarding process, and it's all in your head as an agency owner, it's you're the only source of knowledge. So you're going to get bombarded with questions and requests from the new hire, and it's not their fault. Difficulty scaling operations and delegating effectively, right? That's a given, right? If it's you are the bottleneck, or certain individuals, and it's not a process, not a system. And weaken community culture and team cohesion, right? If they ask like, hey, well, if you ask the individual, how was your experience with the onboarding? And if their answer is, well, I really don't, wasn't sure what to do in the beginning. There was no clarity. The training was some days were crazy intense, and then some days I was just waiting for a task, a request from my manager, my leader. So it creates more friction throughout the whole organization. So why 90-day onboarding, right? Long-term success, increased productivity, consistency, retention, a cultural fit, performance evaluations, and manager burden reduction, right? So for example, like performance evaluation, I just want to expand on that. It might be unclear. Is that how do you grade someone on their performance if there's no clear expectations up front. And part of the onboarding um, process, we consistently reiterate like these are our expectations working here in our organization. And so there's always a clarity on where they're at and where we would like to see them be at, maybe in a week from now, a month from now, 3 months from now. So the structure of the first 90 days. Phase one, days 1 through 30. And within that, it's all the first 30 days is about foundation and immersion. This is the learning phase. And in particular, the first 2 weeks, we kind of call it the hell week. It's really intense, right? There's a lot of setups, a lot of orientation. The focus here is rapid immersion, core system setup, and then introduction of the team, and then and baseline skill aptitude assessment. So think of it this way, we purposely make it very difficult, especially in the first 2 weeks, is to see where the individual's at. It's hard to recognize or see where an individual's at if there is absolutely no pressure, right? If you have, let's say you have all the time in the world to do, a task or write a paper, well then it's it's not, there's no pressure. You don't know where the areas, where your strengths and weaknesses are. It's only until you're under the gun, you're under pressure. It's almost like, competition, right? You have to start competing and to see where your areas of strengths and weaknesses are. And at that point, once you know, then we can focus on those areas for improvement. So that's what the baseline skill aptitude assessment's for. And then we have check-ins. We have for the first 10 days, we're checking in twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So and then weeks 3 to 4, focus, still part of the foundation immersion, understanding the specific job functions, team workflows, initial task applications according to SOPs, setting initial performance goals. And again, there's constant check-ins. Then at this point, instead of twice a day, maybe once a day during the first 30 days. Then we move on to phase two. Phase two is the integration and contribution, so the doing phase. So now the first 30 days are learning, right? Now the second 30 or the second month, it's implementing what they've learned. So the goal here is to learn knowledge, skills on the regular tasks, start integrating it more effectively with the team, start start beginning the contribution to measurably to the client work or tasks or project work, and really start understanding the nuances of the organization. The focus is shifting from learning processes to actively doing it now. It's like instead of reading a book on how to swim, now we're jumping in the water. We're learning how to swim now in the water. And client projects, but everything's under guidance. So the individual isn't drowning. And as soon as we notice any bit of struggling, we stop, we review what's going on. Maybe it's, going back to the swimming analogy, it might be the individual's not kicking properly, right? So we stop and we correct, and then we go back to, okay, let's do another lap. Check-ins, regular check-ins, at least 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes, depending on the role and depending on the individual, if they need a little bit more guidance, we will still continue to do the daily, which is perfectly fine. But I prefer if the individual is progressing well and doesn't need as much direction, then we may reduce it down to like 2 to 3 times a week. And but that's just Zoom calls. For conversations on Slack and email, all those can happen at any time. And then finally, phase three, it's about building more autonomy and performance. So at this point, the third month, I think of it as optimizing. So, first month, learning. Second month, implementing what you've learned. And then the third month, it's optimizing what was learned and implemented. So at this point, it's good to ask questions. As so, if you were the mentor or the manager, the leader, you're asking, hey, what do you think we could do to improve this process? You can ask more of these questions. I'm not saying you can't do that earlier, but now you can ask a lot more of those things because now they have more context, right? The individual has more context now. The learning piece, understanding the culture, understanding the clients, understanding the structures, the systems, the processes, and they've been doing it, right? Implementing it. So now optimizing is the next transition from that. So you can see, yeah, proficiency in growing independence, manage responsibilities effectively, show initiative, solidify their role, and prepare for a formal 90-day review. So moving from doing tasks to really owning the outcomes and demonstrating reliability, anticipating needs, and performing with minimal supervision. And then shifting to regular check-ins, focus on progress, challenges, and feedback. And then at this point, we're getting ready to maybe after this phase, we're starting to do like maybe once a week or once a month check-ins, depending on the role. And the whole idea here is that we want to again provide more autonomy. That's what most people want. They don't want micromanagement. They don't want someone watching over their shoulders. But instead, and also as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, as the agency owner, you don't you don't have time, right, to constantly monitor what someone is doing. It's what you want to measure instead is the results that are being produced. Uh, and ultimately, the phase three is what most, if not all, business owners want, right? From new hires, but they're thinking about it in first 2 weeks, which it's very rare, near impossible to get to only within 1 to 2 weeks. Because just think about it, right? It takes time to understand the culture, understand the clients, understand the project work, the services, the offering, and of course, the mission, the vision, the core values of an organization. There's so many components, and then also the leaders, the mentor, really understanding the individual, like where they're coming from, what's their background, what are their personal and professional challenges. So that does take some time. It's not like magically 2 weeks. So 90-day onboarding in action. So let's go over the general. This is what it looks like for us. We have it broken down a day 1 through day 10, and then the week by week breakdowns. So day 1, orientation onboarding. You can see just intro, getting the paperwork work done, and then we assign a buddy to the new hire. So it's a person, not their manager, not their mentor, but it's someone that is like more like their colleague, someone that's in that same team usually, so they can comfortably ask, all sorts of questions. And then exercising expectations, understanding our mission, vision, and core values. Um, and then we have the individual take like the love language assessment, and then watch some videos like the 90-day plan from Harvard. And then we play some like fun like hockey games and stuff like that. So that's day 1. Day 2, inbox zero, calendar and meetings. So just learning about these basic things in our organization. That's what's important to us. And then day 3, learning more about Gemini. Gemini is the AI tool that we're currently using. It may be ChatGPT, it might be a Perplexity or something else, right? But AI in general, smart suites or project management system, and then taking a personality test. One thing about personality tests here that we take, we ask the new hire to take, is the Big Five personality test, which is free. Um, and everyone has taken this test and they save the output, the results. And what happens is we can then in our conversations compare the results of the new hire to their leader, and then they can see the differences, right? Personality, and usually when there is a big difference in personality, it's when there's misunderstandings or disagreements. It's not that one person doesn't like another. It's more about it's just our personalities, and recognizing that is very important. So that's why we put it in to day three. Day four, brain type and go high level. So we take a short little quiz on brain type, and then go high level, it's our marketing tool. And then under training on US client interactions, and then being more, now we start going to role specific pieces too. But role specific, depending on the role, might start at day two. And I'll show you in a minute because we have two documents here. We have one general onboarding, which every single person that starts in our organization will go through. And then we have a role specific one related to the role. So day six, again, role specific, but as you, I don't know if you notice, starting with day four, one of the books we ask everyone to read, which is a really good book. It's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. So really good. We're big into, leadership and having that leadership mindset. So that's why we have this, and there's 21 laws, and we break it out into 21 days. We talk about it. And in this structure, on column D and all the days, it's they're providing input and then they're updating the status. Like they're sharing their thoughts, one, two sentences, their opinion, what have they learned from this. And then at the end of the day, their mentor, their leader can talk about those things. And this is why in the next 10 days we have these questions. It's the same questions over and over again. How did your day go? Was it what you expected? What did you like? What do you think we could improve on? And how can we help you do your best work? So these questions in the beginning, it's uh, uh, we usually get like really basic answers like, oh yeah, everything's doing fine, doing good, right? But over time, hopefully, once the rapport is built, the trust is built, and it's more comfortable, right? Now working in the organization, then these answers to these questions are now more specific, more precise, right? So again, day eight, same thing, shadowing. So I'm going to switch over to an example of the EA role, like the role specific, which is the executive assistant one. And so every new hire would get a copy of each, and they're working on both at the same time. So for day two, as they're learning the general inbox zero, but they're also learning inbox zero in relation to working managing emails for their executive. So it's not only general but also specific to the role itself. If you look at like a video editor onboarding doc, it's going to be different, right? This is EA specific. So there's that. And then day three, internal tasks and client follow-up. So these are things that our EAs would do for us in our organization. So in general, that is how our 90 days is broken up. You can see in the first 10 days broken up by days, our first 2 weeks broken up by days, and then so forth. It's weeks after that. And we're constantly going back to these documentations. Um, uh, basically these two documents, so to ensure that the training, everything is checked off and there's really no surprises. So something to think about, like how would an onboarding system like this help you in the future? So love to hear more about it, and thank you for your time.